Hey, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Today we're going to take on a Penn reel. It's a 4200 SS reel. It's smaller sized. It's what I would call a freshwater reel from Penn. Vinny, one of our viewers, sent this in. It's having some difficulty with the backstop. It doesn't backstop all the time. He asked me if I could tune the reel up and address that backstop. So what you're going to learn in the case of this reel, it's got a different anti-reverse system. I'll show that to you. I'll show you how to reset that if you took your reel apart and all of a sudden you don't have an anti-reverse, or you have one that works every now and then. I'll show you how the design is, how that works, and how to service this particular reel. And if you're thinking of buying one and you don't have it, you'll see how this reel was put together as a Penn product. Now, this one was made in the United States. I know there's a group of fanatics out there that love the US-made ones, and this one, stands the test of time. It's a good little reel. All right, we're going to start by just taking off the exterior pieces. So I'm going to start by taking the handle off. You'll notice I use a parts tray as I do this to put all the pieces and parts that I take off of that reel. I'm also going to take off the spool. Now, the spool is one of these that's similar to the Mitchell and some of the other reels that are out there. You push the button to remove the spool, and this gets us to the core body of the reel. Now, this is not terribly complicated technology, and actually it's probably on the low end of technology, just done well. So it's a nice reel. It certainly stands the rigors for freshwater fishing. You can land some nice fish on this reel. But by today's standards, if you got a reel this size, you wouldn't find one of these necessarily from Penn. But if you had a Daiwa or a Shimano with the graphites and the 8 or 9 ball bearings and some of the other work in there, the instant anti-reverse and the like, that would way outclass the technology that's in this reel. So let's open up the side case, see what you have. What you have is a 3-ball bearing reel. We're going to clean this up. We're going to oil it for Vinny while we're at it. You have a 3-ball bearing reel, one on each side plate and one under the rotor here. And we're going to get to that rotor one. And the way to do that is to pull the main gear. That main gear's got a hole in it. Why is that? Stay tuned. We'll show you. And then we'll make sure we oil that. We'll clean it up. It looks very clean inside. We'll oil the bearings. We'll put it back together again and get it going fishing. So let's just take the main gear off. Main gear with the hole in it. We can remove the screw to the crosswind or oscillating block. One of the things of interest of this one, by design, I guess, that block is plastic. Kind of makes me a little nervous, but I like to see a metal one in there. Alright, and then we can pull the axle shaft. And we can pull that plastic block. And we can pull the crosswind gear. And again, this reel is in pretty good condition. So here's the technology on that anti-reverse. There's an anti-reverse ratchet that's riding on the rotor. You can see it there. And we have what is going to be a spring mechanized or spring driven anti-reverse action off the anti-reverse spring and anti-reverse dog, that when you are reeling, the spring is going to pull this forward and you're going to spin freely. And when you stop reeling, that spring is going to push it back, and that's going to lock the anti-reverse. That's the function there. Now, since he said this is sticking, I'm going to take some penetrating oil. I'm going to hit that, and I'm just going to let that lay while we do the top end service. So I'm going to come over here then and grab that rotor nut. This one is done normally. This is a counterclockwise to remove, and we can pull the router up, or rotor. And here's the other bearing, the 3rd bearing. It's got some old grease on there, so let's take that old grease off. What I'm going to do with this then is I'm going to just oil the bearing. This is just a service, we're not rebuilding the reel, but oil that bearing, make sure that that's got a nice drink of oil on it. For that I'm going to use Reel X, which is a synthetic oil that's made for fishing reels. And then we can just button this right back up. You just check underneath, there's nothing there because the anti-reverse doesn't work from under the rotor. Many of these older reels would have the saw teeth in here, and it would have a dog that was up on this assembly. This one does not. As I mentioned, it has it from below. So let's go put this right back on then. We have the holdfast just knocked out, so let's go put that back on as well. Okay, and it just sits in the indentation. We can go grab the nut for the spool then. Rotor, not router, and we can tighten that down. And we want to make sure that's tight, not over tightened, because if you over tighten you won't spin it. There you go, you got a nice spinning reel with this one now. So it's been oiled. You can also, if you wanted to, you can get the underside of the bearing by putting in a little bit of oil underneath that, give that a spin so that it works its way in as well. Okay, I'm going to grab a cotton swab, just clean up some of that excess oil and stuff inside there. Make sure the inside of that side plate bearing there is clean, just like we did up top. Clean up some of it. Now it's oil, so it's not going to be terrible if you leave that in there. If it was dirt and junk, you would worry about that. And I'm going to put a little bit of oil onto that bearing as well. Alright, then we can come back to that crosswind block and gear. Here's your crosswind gear. So I'm going to take a little bit of reel grease with that, and I'm going to use Penn Precision reel grease. I'll apply some to the bottom and some to the front of this. You want it to be smooth underneath here, so make sure you put a nice glob of grease on that. Sit that on the stud there. Now we got the crosswind block. It's got a little indentation there, or slot. That's where that slot rides on that stud. This is dry, so let's make sure that we get some grease in there. And then we noticed when we took this off that the screw was below. Screw hole was up top on that. Now we can reinstall the axle. For that axle, we want to put a little bit of grease on that too. If it was rough, you could take some steel wool or the like, and you could bring off the old greases, but there's no old grease on here to speak of. Let's put a little bit of grease on that. It's put too much on there, it's going to just clog up on the insert here. Make sure that the flat side is out on this as you go to reinstall. And then just line the circle up. And this is one of those reels where it's not built with the, you got to take the crosswind or axle gear off before you take the main gear out. As a matter of fact, it won't, can't do it that way, but in this case it's just a matter that it has to be put in first because of that hole in that main gear there, and we'll show you that hole's purpose in a moment. So when I was exchanging emails with Vinny, he asked me, is the anti-reverse dog spring the cause of the problem? Well, inadvertently it is the cause of the problem. Let's make sure that that penetrating oil is working good now. Yeah, it's nice and loose now. Put a little drop of regular oil on there. Let that lube up. And here's the deal with this now. So you have the main gear, and behind it, other than a little bit of dried grease, behind it we have a long leg and a short leg of this anti-reverse spring. And what it is this anti-reverse spring with the short leg belongs in this hole. And the longer leg is going to come up against the case here. That's going to keep the tension when you're spinning the reel. The the internal leg is going to force this back, but the spring off the side case here, this long tag, is going to force this back when you stop. So that's how this technology works. Like I said, it's not a new technology, it's a very old technology, but it's been very effective. All right, so take that tab, and I know it's hard to see. Take this tab, put it in the middle of the window. Remember I said that little hole there? What is that about? That's your sight. So you want to get that into the middle of the window there. Then you need good lighting. I have a good lighting overhead, but you need good lighting because as you go to install this gear now, you're going to be looking through the window for that slot, and then you're going to put it into the slot, just like that. Well, almost like that, right? And we meshed. Okay, now we've got it properly set, and you can actually hear it, and then you can watch it. It's hard to see on there, but you can watch how it's reacting when you go to reverse mode. When you stop and back it, it will have that leg of that spring pushing off on that to make the difference. Okay, that's it. One more bearing to oil. That's the side plate bearing that we took off. We could put a little bit of grease on the shaft so that it rides easily on the inside of the bearing. Let's go ahead and do that. And we can close the reel up. Make sure you hear that case snap. Grab the 3 screws for the side plate. And while we have the oil out, after we put these 3 screws together, we're going to just oil the bail wire, just to make sure that it runs smoothly against that graphite case. So this is the 4200 or 4200, whatever you like, SS. Made in the US, 3-ball bearings, Penn reel for fresh water. Nice reel. Nice reel. I'm sure it's going to last Vinny a long time. So hopefully with this, he can do the service the next time. That's kind of the why and the how of why I have this channel. Show folks how to do these things and help them as they get ready to try and do this in the future. Okay, just putting the handle back on. We should have a nice spin now. We do. And we should have a very functioning, no skip. There you go. So that's how it operates. The spool, there's no action needed on that spool. You could take this off, but no need to. I'll just show it to you. This is set up like the old Mitchell spools. It's got a little drag system up top here. Underneath here is an HT100 drag, and then you have the compression spring. Then you have this, but for fresh water, it's up the bottom of the studs coming out. There's just a look at your HT100 drag. And that's got enough meat on it that nothing needs to be done there. If you did want to replace it, you would simply pull that out, put the tension spring back on, put this spring back on. Put it back on the reel, and this one's ready to go. There you go. As I said before, we'll put a little drop of oil onto the side crevices for this. We're also going to put some up top here just to keep that fresh as well. Now let's spin it off, make sure that it's operating nicely. I'm right on the high point there. Okay, we're set. Vinny, it's coming back at you. So I hope you've enjoyed the video here. I hope that you've learned a little bit. This isn't the only reel that uses that technology with that little spring that operates the anti-reverse dog from below. So if you find yourself in a situation where you see that, you'll know how to make it work, and hopefully that'll help you in the future. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you did, please like it. If you want to see more, please subscribe. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Thank you for watching.